analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR today, going over some different indicators, charts, and we're going to be talking about Bitcoin too. Right now we are getting a pump in pre-market. Things are looking really good. S&P 500's up 3.17. A lot of things are rallying this morning. I would assume it's because of the tariff talk between China and the US, which is amazing. It's awesome. That's what we want to see. So it's super bullish for the economy. You love to see it. When we're taking a look here at MSTR, if we compare it to the last leg, we keep comparing it to the last leg because it looks more like this one than it does this one, because this was just a 2-month rally and the first candle was enormous. When you take a look here from the bottom of the wick to the top, it was 122%, and we didn't get anything close to that in the first one. We got 64% on this candle here from wick to wick. So this was double the size of this one. So we're going to compare it to more of this leg, because if you measure from the bottom of this wick to the top of this wick, this one was 57%. So as you can see, we did a little bit more than this one. They're practically the same size. This one just ended up, the actual body of the candle pushed up the wick a little bit more. And this one had a little bit more of a wick. That's all the difference is. But if we were to get something similar to what we saw on this last leg, the last 2 months, because we're here on the monthly, we take it from the body of this candle, and we just put it up like halfway up this wick. So this wick went all the way up here. That would be a 220% move, but I always like to be a little more conservative. So I'm going to go and put it like halfway up the wick, so about 170%. If we were to get that exact same move from the body of this wick, 170 would take us to roughly 1055, which is awesome. I'm cool with that. I would definitely start trimming around that time for my specific situation, you know. Another thing that I want to take note of is that, man, look at the leg that we had, right? It looks identical to this leg, but look how much resistance that we had to break through. This is super, super bullish, because like when you look at this last move, all we really had was this horizontal level of support and resistance that we had to break through. That's pretty much it. There wasn't much suppressing price here. So it was pretty much an easy move through there. We got a little bit of rejection along the way, but this was the only level that we had to fight for. When you look here, we had much more to get through. We had a downward sloping trend line. We had this horizontal level of support, and then we had this golden zone, this Fibonacci to the downside. So, and here, all you really had was, like I said, that level, and then maybe if you pull the trend line here, and it really didn't even, it rejected it a couple times, and then it blew right through it. And we've kind of been doing the same thing, which is good. We've got a little bit of rejection along the way, but we've been kind of just chugging through this thing. And same thing here, we got a little bit of rejection, but price doesn't care right now, which I love to see. That's why we're in MSTR, because of days like this. Hopefully this stays. I always get a little concerned whenever we're up, you know, too much in pre-market, but it's also MSTR, so you can gap up and still rally through the rest of the day, which in other like traditional stocks, if you gap up, most of the time you're gonna come fill the gap, or it'll just end up being a red day, which happens a lot. But MSTR is a whole different beast, and that's why we're putting our money in here, understanding Bitcoin cycles along with this leverage play on Bitcoin. So, but anyways, things are looking great. Looks like we're getting that repeat of this move. Hopefully we see that. If we were to get a move similar to what we had last time, and you go from the bottom of the wick, kind of measure that out, that takes us right there. And this is something that we could be looking at. I mean, we're pretty much on track for what could be happening. You know, we did speak about this golden zone being that level where we finally become like free. We get that pressure release once you crack 450, there's nothing else stopping you. 450 and on, it's go time. You have the all-time highs, but that's not even going to be any. That's going to be a minor level of resistance. If anything, it'll be a psychological level, but that's it. You don't really have much holding you back. And I always keep talking about, the last 3 weeks, and you can see, I think that's what's going to end up happening. It makes sense. We're on track to have that happen again. We're still that steady climb up. And we were saying, hopefully once we get to like 550, and this is actually showing that exactly, that once you break 550, it just starts to ramp from there. It doesn't have to play out like that. We could still steady climb after 550 and then ramp up. But yeah, this is looking very good. So I'm excited to see what happens. When you take a look here at the SMAs, we're in the same position here. We got our bounce off the 50 on the daily. We have the 20 crossing the 50. We're still holding the 200. And we're going to be focusing more on the 4 hour and 1 hour just temporarily because, it's kind of the same thing with the daily and weekly every day. And since I do daily updates, I need to do something that's more dynamic, that's changing every day. So on the 4 hour, you can see we're getting pretty close to the 4 hour, and then we pretty much shot off of it. So let's see if we end up pulling back to it, or we just keep rallying and separating from it. That would be nice to see. Here on the 1 hour, it's kind of the same concept, but we did get the 20 pushing off of the 50, which is looking very good. That's super bullish. It didn't even cross it. It just like tapped it. It almost used it as a level of support, and the 20 bounced off the 50. So that's extremely bullish. So global liquidity, we're going to go on Bitcoin just to, measure it up. So the index that I use, they just actually had an update, and now you can add the offset to it, which is pretty cool. I was using the other one sometimes just to use the offset, but now, because I like this aspect of it, that I can use all of these, and then the 82-day offset is what I like, because I like to measure it closer to this part of it. So it could actually be probably like 83, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. So if we go from here, the reason I'm measuring from here is I want to be kind of ahead of the move just in case. So if we take it from here and we say this is the top, a 92-day rally. Global liquidity looks like it's forming a double top. We spoke about a head and shoulders, but it looks like a double top's being formed, but I don't know if the move's over yet. It all depends on the dollar, but we'll talk about that later in this video as well. But a 92-day rally, 92 days would take us to early, mid-July. Yeah, so July 10th, maybe even before that. But this is looking very good. We're only 33 days into the move. So if you take it from here and do 33 days, that takes you somewhere in this region here of this move, which goes to show that we have maybe another, we have another half of this move or a little bit more, because maybe we've done about, I don't know, I would say from here to here. Yeah, maybe we've done about half the move, but we do have a major spike coming up, a large move, and then another major spike. So I'd be anticipating at least 2 more large legs before maybe some kind of pullback, before we get some kind of, something down like this. But we'll see how things go, of course. We are getting to that final point of the cycle where things are either going to play out how they always have, or things are going to be brand new and we don't get the major rally that we're anticipating. But if it is the same as the other cycles, then we should be getting a large move. Back to MSTR, when we look at the RSI on the weekly, we're getting to that 70 point. It looks like whenever we get a durable move above 74, that's when we start to get these major candles to the upside. You can see majority of the gains were just these three candles. Majority of the gains were these three candles, and it's above this 74 region right here. Ideally, we'd like to see something like this. This did happen 4 years ago, which would line up with the Bitcoin cycle. So let's see. And even better, it would be if we got a leg like this. Our pullback brought us back to that 70 point, just how it did here or close to it. And we get a final leg all the way. This thing ran up to 95, which is insane. We actually did touch 90 here, which is extremely bullish. So let's see how high we can get this thing to go. Hopefully we crack 74 with some momentum. And on the monthly is kind of the same concept. It looks like a shorter move here on the monthly. But if we can get a larger extended move where, this thing was above the 70 region or months. If we can get 4 months of being above the 70 region, that'd be pretty crazy. Taking us to August, September time frame of just straight bullishness, that'd be nuts. But I mean, if we rally for 4 months straight on MSTR and Bitcoin, that's probably the end of the move, if I'm being honest. And that would be an earlier top in Q3. I don't see us rallying for 4 months and then rallying for the next 3 months after that. There's going to have to be some kind of pullback. Unless you get like a pullback for a month after the 3 month or 4 month rally, and then rally for another few months, maybe into 2026. I don't know. But take that into consideration. RSI is looking bullish on every single time frame. On the hourly, all we have to do is break this yellow moving average, and we have literally every single time frame looking very bullish. And when we take a look at Bitcoin, so it looks like every cycle, we get like two angles that we take. So we get like a steady increase, with our pullbacks in between. And then in the final year of the cycle, we get an aggressive, steeper trend line. So we have a consistent trend line, then a very steep trend line. Same thing here. Block out all the noise, the extreme high with the low. We got a consistent trend line, maybe like that or something here. Consistent trend line. And then we had an aggressive move to the upside. See that? And what do you know? We have a consistent trend line. I could draw this a little bit differently. Let it hug this a little bit more. Could be something like there. We have a consistent pattern, nothing too crazy. And what's to come? Do we get our aggressive trend line like that? And not to mention, we did touch the top of this range. I'm not going to say that we're going to do this because I like to be conservative with my estimates, especially when I'm, talking here on YouTube. I don't want anybody to make financial decisions and get wrecked because of what I said. So I'm very careful with what I say because I don't want to lose anybody money. That's the last thing I want to do. I only want to make you guys money. That's my goal. Make you guys money and not lose money. But I'm literally just lining up what I see. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but you can see. You see it for yourself. We did touch the top here. We touched the top here. This was 17, 21, 25. So I know people do call for the 400, 500 region, and I understand why. You're not going to hear that out of my mouth. I'm not going to say that. I'd rather go more conservative. I'm okay with selling my position at 170, 180 and seeing it go to 200 or 400. I truly do not care. I will not FOMO in. I don't care. I truly don't care. Because if we get up to 170 and I can sell there, I'll be in a good position that the extra money, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So we are looking good. We have this trend line that was established up here. And, if we do get that steeper angle, it could take us higher than I'm anticipating, than most people are anticipating. We'll see. But you also do have to take into consideration that Bitcoin has that regression. As its market cap increases, it takes more money to move the price. So to get the same percentage gains, it's going to be tougher and tougher, I feel like eventually this channel won't be respected anymore. Like, it worked for the first, couple of cycles. And as we get later and later into the cycles, we probably won't hit the tops or bottoms as we anticipate, because the drops will be less and the gains will be less eventually. It doesn't have to play out like that this cycle. We're still pretty early in Bitcoin's life. But yeah, I do think we're going to get a steeper angle of attack. How high it goes, I have no clue. Like I said, even if it does go to 400K, I'm going to be out. And I'll let you guys know I'm going to be out for sure. And even when I sell, I'll still be, making videos on MSTR, Bitcoin. I'll still be doing these for you guys, keep you guys, in check. For anybody that's still in, I'm not going to abandon you and just say, hey, I sold, good luck. So, but yeah, when you take a look at the Tether Dominance too, I'm going to head over here. We've been getting our drop. Love to see that. It's freaking amazing. Beautiful. We got a trend line break. We retested and fell underneath it. We were trending upward, broke underneath it, retested, fell lower. Beautiful. And then we did talk about, we had this green line drawn out. If you've been watching the channel, you know. And if you haven't, you need to be subscribed so you can, be sure that you're up to date on all this stuff so you can catch these moves. We try giving an unbiased opinion, but we did speak about this level. We said if we broke 495 and then eventually fell underneath 497, that we could get a large drop on the Tether Dominance. If you get the large drop on the Tether Dominance, that means you get a Bitcoin rally, and that's how it goes. They're inversely correlated. The reason for this is because Tether Dominance shows you the amount of capital that's being held into stable coins, which is risk off. Stable coins, think about it, stable. You're not really moving in price. It's you're scared of the market, risk off. That's how you think of it, because it's stable. When you see stable coins or Tether Dominance dropping, that means people are taking their money out of stable coins and putting it into something else, such as Bitcoin, more than likely Bitcoin. So with that being said, that's why they're inversely correlated, because money is flowing out of Tether Dominance, flowing out of stable coins, and being injected into Bitcoin. So that's why they have a exact inverse correlation. So anybody new, I see we have some new people. Anybody who's watching this, I have it drawn out. You can see whenever you touch these blue lines and you see these red dots, that's when Bitcoin topped. You can see it time and time again. It happens whenever you touch this like logarithmic regression line. So you can see the tops here every single time. Never fails. It's some kind of top. It doesn't have to be like the cycle top or whatever. It could be a local top. But you can see whenever you touch that line here on Bitcoin, same thing. So this is what we're going to be using to try and call our tops. This one didn't quite touch it, but I probably also have the line not drawn out perfectly, but you get the idea. Once you get within, once we're like sub 4, we got to start looking like, hey, this thing might be, we could be getting to that point, so let's keep that in mind. But we still have still have a little ways to go. It's at 4.5. And that also doesn't mean that it's the top for the cycle. We could also still get like a double bottom, or it drops and then get a lower low. So it doesn't have to bounce off of it exactly or anything like that. We'll be using this as our one of our indicators for calling the top or near the top. I'm not trying to sell the top at all. I don't care for that. I just want to get a piece of this move, and that's it. I can wait for the next cycle and accumulate on the downturn. Now in the dollar, we have Bitcoin going up while the dollar's increasing. So this could actually be a recipe for a large move up. We'll see, of course. But we have a key level of support and resistance, as you can see here. We have this level drawn out. Key level, rejection. We broke above it, fake out, rejection, rejection. Acting as support, support, support. We just fell underneath it. Remember, we always say when we're talking about price action, when you break and hold something, you will retest it. So if I was talking about this, I would say we're going to potentially break down. I would say we're going to retest this level and potentially push down further. And if you break this 97.86, we probably get a major pump on Bitcoin, at least till we see somewhere in this region, anywhere from 95 to 96.5. So that's currently happening as we speak. This is on the monthly, so there's still 18 days. So this is a lot of time to, test this level, see what we're going to do, and push down. But I like to stay unbiased. We also have the possibility that this thing could just essentially just do a clean move right back up and wipe out this entire candle. That's always a possibility. When you take a look here on the weekly, you look to the left, and there's no traffic. So this thing can rally right back up to 103. So this could have been a fake breakdown, as it's had here. Granted, this was the only one that fell underneath this actual level and pushed back up. So we could get a similar move like this. Hopefully not. This one seems like a more aggressive move to the downside. And also when I take a look here at the Fibonacci, we do have a little bit of, we have more of a bias to the downside on the dollar. But you take a look here and you actually have a golden zone right here, 0.5 to 618, which is a key level for resistance to push price down even further. So this could continue to the downside. We'll see. It's starting to wick a little bit, but that doesn't mean anything. Be open for both positions. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but ideally we'd like to see a rejection and see the dollar continue down. If the dollar continues down, then global liquidity will go up, which means Bitcoin can get a more extended move on the back end as well. But that would be ideal. And the dollar and Bitcoin have an inverse correlation, but it's not exact because it does rally sometimes while the dollar's going up. As we currently speak, that's what's happening. We have a rally up since April 21st, but Bitcoin's been going up at that same time. But at the same time, when Bitcoin got a strong drop here in March, Bitcoin rallied up. As the dollar fell down, Bitcoin rallied. So, but overall, it's supposed to be a negative correlation, but it does have its moments where they go together. But you can see in these pullbacks, you can see Bitcoin will have some strong rally sometimes, and sometimes it won't. It's kind of the gist of it. You can see here a large move on the dollar upward. Bitcoin had a strong move to the downside, so just something to take note of. But I do think we could get a move down. That's what I'm hoping to see. But I'm still open to the idea of it going upward. I do see, the dollar hitting, like I said, maybe 95. Yeah, I could definitely see the dollar hitting 95. I would love to see it go even further down. Because when you see the dollar drop significantly, you can see Bitcoin has some large moves. So you can see these levels where Bitcoin pretty much topped. The dollar was at a very low point, you know, here at 88 bucks. We had even a local top here. You can see here another top. The dollar was at a low point as well. So it does happen time and time again. And I kind of expect something like that to happen again. If we get a push up higher, then maybe the dollar pushes down to this level. Ideally, if we get sub 90, that would be awesome, and that would be a major pump for Bitcoin. But we could definitely see something like that, or come down to this region. That'd be a super bullish case though, and along the way it would be retest, push down lower, maybe chop, push up halfway, breakthrough, retest, and finally make it down there. That's how I probably see it playing out. But that would be very bullish for all risk assets, as global liquidity would be going up. Let me take a look here at MSTR divided by Bitcoin. We're creating higher highs and higher lows off of this move here. We got a strong bounce off of this level of support and resistance. We are trying to make our way up to all-time highs. And this is showing that MSTR is outperforming Bitcoin, which is what it's designed to do. So we love to see that it's doing what it's supposed to do. And when we pull a fib, we kind of have that same area where we have a fib above our head, which is going to kind of suppress MSTR for a little bit in terms of outperformance against Bitcoin temporarily until we break above this. Once we can break above this, MSTR can probably start going vertical against Bitcoin's value, which makes sense because that lines up with that idea of the slow crawl up and aggressive move upward. And we have a long-term trend line established as well. That's been respecting ever since 2024. So let's see how it plays out. On MSTR divided by Bitcoin, you can actually see that the 20-day SMA is actually right underneath price, which is perfect. That'll allow MSTR to start outperforming Bitcoin. Back to MSTR, we'll see how today plays out. We're currently sitting at 426. I think the US-China trade agreement should be something bullish. I have to see more information on it, of course. Still in the same position, still bullish. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoy content like this. Drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next one.